Our workshop consists of discussions, demonstrations, and then what we work really hard on is a lot of hands-on activities. We've got over in our shop, and you'll see this afternoon, all kinds of stuff you're actually going to be able to take apart, put back together. You can get your hands dirty. I've often been asked about steel-toed shoes and stuff like that. It's not that type of environment at all. But we got a lot of hand tool type activities. Dashpot Labs are real popular. Dashpot is the heart of a mechanical governor, after all. At the end of the course, everybody's going to get a certificate. What we typically do is it's unsigned, it has your name on it. Have one of your favorite instructors or several instructors or somebody sign it on the way out. That kind of works out pretty good. The governor types we're gonna cover are mechanical gate shaft, analog governors, digital, and Pelton mechanical. Now, with a show by hands, how many people are here like primarily for mechanical cabinet actuators? Okay, pretty good group. How about gate shaft governors? Okay, analog governors, mod 2. All right, we got a good number of those. And then the infamous digital governor. Oh yeah, there's more and more of those every year. It's a trend that we just can't seem to turn around. And then who's here maybe for the Pelton cabinet actuator governor? Oh, that's cool, because we built one of those too, even though we were all ex-Woodward guys. This is a fun thing I like to do. This is you folks right here, okay? This is who we are, and where we're from, and who we represent. And I'm very proud to say that Jessica this year had to expand the map to more than just North America. We have 3 honored guests from the Philippines. We have our sales rep from over there, and 2 executives from the National Power Corporation. And thank you gentlemen for coming all the way to Amherst, Wisconsin to join us. We have a lady from Brazil, and we have a gentleman from Mexico. Now, stateside, not stateside, let's see, in North America, we've got 6 provinces represented this year. Okay, we got Alberta, BC, we got New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Northwest Territories, and Ontario. And from the United States, you can see there's quite a few little dots up there. We got 21 states here: Alabama, Arkansas, California, Georgia, Idaho, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nebraska, Nevada, New York, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, Washington, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. So there's a pretty good smattering of states represented here. These are who's sitting around you. So as you go through the week, if you always wanted to meet somebody from West Virginia, there's your opportunity. And of course, there's going to be somebody from Wisconsin here every year because I'm here every year. We've got publicly owned utilities, government-owned utilities represented here, municipally owned, like a town or village, and privately owned. We got design consultants here, systems integrators, turbine manufacturers, Governor oil pump suppliers, NERC testing company is here, and of course all you wonderful plant people that make it happen to keep the units on the grid every day. Company-wise, we got ABB, Alaska Electric Power, Alabama Power, Allen Towers Engineering, Alstrom, American Hydro, Andrews, BC Hydro, Brookfield, East Bay Mud, Fortis, Holyoke Power, Idaho, Kakani Utilities, Kestrel Engineering, Knight Construction, Los Angeles, Department of Water Power, Multifactors from the Philippines, North American Hydro, Nalcor Engineering from Newfoundland, National Power Corporation, Philippines, Nevada Irrigation, New Brunswick, North American Hydro, Northwest Territories, Nova Scotia Power, New York Power Authority, Aurelia Power out of Ontario, Pacific Gas and Electric, Pacific Corp, Ponderay, PUD, Renault Engineer, Salt River Projects, Hail City Light, SMUD. This is alphabetical, so you know I'll be done here shortly. We have Systems Integrated Company, TransAlta, TransCanada, Tridam Project, Turlock, Irrigation District, TVA, USBR, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, We Energies, Wills Rural Electric, and Yukon Energy Corp. Now that's a pretty good smattering of the industry that we've attracted, and very proud to have everybody come this far to join us here. Today, primarily the classroom is going to be in here. Your instructors are going to be Jerry Running, who introduced me this morning, and I think is Dan doing, and Dan Berrien. Governor 101 and Droop, okay? And Wednesday and Thursday, we'll be using like I said, the Jensen Center for the discussions, and then we'll be going with the bus back and forth to our shop Wednesday and Thursday for the hands-on activities and the classroom activities. And so there'll be bus schedules posted all the way around. All right, now the social agenda. Who's ever heard of this part of our program before? Who came just for this part of the program? This is Central Waters Brewery, one of the best industrial neighbors a company could ever have. When they made the announcement they were going to build in the business park next to us, I called Scott and I said, "We got the best business ever. It's going to build right next to us. What do you think it is?" I'm not going to tell you what he said. But it turns out it was a brewery. And they've been there for 7 years now, and they're great friends of ours. We actually help the brewery out a lot because they got a lot of equipment, and we're very good at fixing stuff. And they pay us with beer. So we have an expression around the company, the brewery needs help. Let's go.
They wouldn't put a pipeline in.
No, they wouldn't. We tried to get a line run. That's not true. It really doesn't go into my office. So anyway, actually this evening, in all seriousness, we're having an event down there. We're going to have a tailgate party, like a Green Bay, good old-fashioned tailgate Green Bay Packer party with free beer and some gifts, and that's going to come after we go to the shop. Then later on this evening, tell me who came just for this event. We have casino night at the Holiday Inn. So we're going to be at the brewery till like 7-ish or so, and have a bite to eat, and then go back, and then we're going to have casino night with funny money, and you can take your funny money, and we've got various prize stations set up, and whatever one you might like, you're going to get so many tickets for how much ever money you win, and you can put your tickets in to win a prize, and I believe that the odds are slanted towards the customers. It's a rather generous casino. That's something, and we put the Indians to shame, I can tell you. Wednesday night, we're going to have pig roast here at the Jensen Center. Okay, so Wednesday afternoon after class, there's a tent set up out back here, and I personally arranged for like some 80-degree weather, and I think it's coming, because 1 out of 3 years we all huddle up together and say, hey, having a good time. So at the pig roast, we're going to have a band. We got some classic car friends of ours from Amherst area are going to come. We got some cars, hot rods to look at. We got games to play, volleyball. I don't think we can play basketball anymore because I see they tore the basketball courts up for the high school edition. Ladder golf, Walshers, horseshoes, stuff like that. More social activities. The closing night, how about some karaoke? Doesn't everybody love to sing in front of everybody else?
You get enough beer in you.
Yeah, some liquid nerve. Yeah. So anyway, that we have a karaoke night. And at that, I'm going to say, that's all, folks. But I think I forgot to say a little bit about our meals. During the day, you're going to eat lunch here. So even if you're at the shop on Wednesday or Thursday, you'll take the bus. Lunch is here every day, and breaks will be here in the morning. In the afternoon, unless you're at the shop, breaks will be set up over there. But you'll always come back here for lunch. And I get just this little closing slide here. This is what it's all about. This is what you're here for. We're going to talk a little bit about all of it. In 101, Jerry's going to talk about water starting time. And that wasn't good. We'll talk about water starting time, turbines, generators, exciters, obviously the governors. It's going to be a broad brush about the whole powerhouse. Because if you're going to be working on governors, one thing you got to understand is how they interact with everything else involved in the powerhouse. So you have to have a cursory knowledge of the whole thing. That's why I always tell customers, it's a wonderful place to bring trainees to because you learn more than just the governor. And at that, I'm done. Jerry, would you like to introduce our next guest? Just turn the switch on the side of that one. Jerry, turn that one on. Paul mic'd up. Paul? Here you go. Give us kind of some slack here.
We're getting Paul electrified here so he can speak. But anyway, I'd like to introduce Paul Brumley.
Paul?
Hello. Testing. 1, 2. There it is.
You got it?
Oh, I guess we have a 5-minute warning bell. The bell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's, when we ring it, when you're in your classes, there'll be a 5-minute warning, which is what, well, there's 2 distinct chimes. I think one of them's a cuckoo, and the other one is, yeah, a doorbell. So when you hear the 5-minute warning, that goes for you instructors. You got to get ready to go. And that'll be here and in the shop also.
Thanks. I'd like to introduce Paul Brumley. He's with TVA, and he's an engineer there. He's got 11 years' experience with governors, and he's based in Chattanooga. Now, this is what he's told me, but I've worked with him and his cohort, George Atkinson, for many years, so we're really excited to have Paul here to give you a little talk about TVA and what they do that, might be similar to what you guys are doing. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Paul Brumley from TVA.
Thank you, Jerry. I wanted to tell you, Jerry said I'd been with TVA for 11 years. One of the first things I learned when I started there was 2 of the biggest lies in TVA. And Jerry said I was an engineer. The first one is when you go out to a plant and you say, I'm from engineering and I'm here to help. And the second one is we're glad to have you. I still have a lot of plant people here. I want to talk a little bit about our agency. The TVA Act was signed in 1933, so we just had our 80th birthday. The primary purpose of the TVA was flood control and as an economic development agency. The generation of electricity, that just sort of naturally comes from flood control. And here we have a picture of the President Roosevelt, or Roosevelt, I guess, depending on where you're from. And the man on the standing on the right is Senator Norris, who is basically the father of TVA, and we'll talk about him some more in a minute. TVA was part of the New Deal and the alphabet soup, as they call it. This is a picture of the good old days. You can see on the left, it was the Tennessee River back then. I'm pretty sure that is down in Alabama, where the river is wide, or was wide and not very deep. And you can see that is not navigable. Today, there on the left you can see a picture of all our dams, and All of these from Kentucky Dam is over close to Paducah, where the Tennessee runs into the Ohio River, and you can walk through all the way to Knoxville. And it's 652 miles, so that was a great economic benefit, just having where you can walk through all the way up. This is the Great Flood of 1867. I know you guys don't recognize that as Chattanooga, but it is underwater. All that water you see there on the right 2/3 of the screen is Chattanooga, and it's underwater. And this is Chattanooga not underwater. I stole this slide that says Chattanooga today. I don't think that's today. I believe that's a few years ago. But when you're stealing, you can't really be picky. In the white is our service area. So we cover most of Tennessee and 6 other states: Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. We are a federally owned corporation, but we get no allotments from Congress. We haven't got any money from the Congress since the late 50s for power generation, and we haven't got any for anything since the late 90s. Stuff like mowing grass and keeping the recreation areas up, picnic tables and stuff like that. All of our expansion, maintenance, all that is funded by power sales. So I call the TVA a quasi-government agency. You can see there at the bottom, 7 states, 80,000 square miles, almost 9 million people. All right, here's another map. In the light color is actually the Tennessee Valley, the drainage area, and it starts up in Virginia and drains Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia. You can see that all the way up to Paducah in the top right corner, where the Tennessee drains into the Ohio. And then the dark brown is our service area. And down towards the bottom, about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom, and 1/3 away from the right, is Chattanooga. That's where I'm from. But I go all over from one end to the other when I'm out helping people. This information here is a little bit dated too, but it's pretty close. We have about 5,500 megawatts of hydro, about 15,000 megawatts of coal, but that, I guess like everybody else, we have less and less coal every day. We have a lot of coal plants that you can see, some of them are 60 years old, were built in the 50s, and they're just too expensive to keep up with the new pollution controls, and coal is, at least for now, it's on its way out. Nuclear, 6,500 megawatts. We have another 1,100 megawatts under construction at Watts Bar Nuclear Plant. This is our gas turbines, and I couldn't find the exact numbers, but I'm certain the gas turbines are probably closer to 10,000 megawatts now, and the coal is probably closer to 10,000 now also. And the last little bit of our power comes from, part of it comes from the Army Corps of Engineers, from the dams they have on the Cumberland River, which is basically north of the Tennessee River. It goes through Nashville and drains basically the north half of Tennessee. And then other things, renewables, with power purchases, we purchase wind power from the Midwest, stuff like that. And we have a total of, that's nameplate, 36,000 megawatts. All right. This is the more fun stuff because it's pictures. This is Norris Dam was the first dam built by TVA, so it's named for the father of TVA, Senator Norris. Who was from Nebraska. But anyway, he was the father of TVA, and that's him on the postage stamp there with Norris Dam in the background. It was built in the early 30s. It has it still has Woodward mechanical cabinet actuators that were built back then, and they're still working. They've been upgraded a little, but they're still there, still running. It's 265 feet. By the way, I took these pictures when this dam was spilling, which is, as y'all all probably know, it's pretty dramatic to look at, but a picture doesn't do it justice, of course. It's on the Clinch River. Did I say 200 and something feet? In East Tennessee above Knoxville. And there's another picture. That was our 50th anniversary. That's another picture of Norris Dam. All right. TVA was started in the 30s, and to a large extent it was also a jobs program. They did things like hire people, and they would work 5 hours a day, and then a lot of my friends who do not work with the government think that most of us still work 5 hours a day. But they got paid for 8 hours a day, and the other 3 hours they were supposed to be going to school, finish their high school or go to college or whatever. And plus that way they could hire more people. So that was in the 30s, and then in the 40s we. Of course, we're fighting World War II, and we'll discuss that in a minute, what that meant for TVA. This is just an inspirational poster of Fontana Dam, which is over in North Carolina. Talk about that in a minute. There's another inspirational sign up by Watts Bar. There was a dam and a steam plant, which was coal, and now the steam plant has been torn down, the dam is still there, and there's a nuclear plant. And you can see we had the chain of what we call line of sight. What are we working on here? We're going to generate electricity for aluminum, for warplanes, for victory. This is just a picture of an airplane factory in Nashville during the war. Alcoa Aluminum had a factory south of Knoxville, oddly enough, in a town called Alcoa, Tennessee. Still there. Largest aluminum plant in the world, and you need a lot of electrons to manufacture aluminum, so there were plenty of opportunities for new hydropower in eastern Tennessee. So that opportunities for hydropower means you got undammed rivers. So those two went together very well. This is a picture of Douglas Dam, which is in East Tennessee on the French Broad River. It was built in 12 months and 17 days, which is pretty amazing. So there's 4 units in there, about the whole station is probably 120 megawatts. Here's another inspirational poster. The bottom line on that poster said to beat the rats. Apparently there's other versions of that. Take out the rats and put in other words. But anyway, this was an inspirational poster. Here's another one. for, I guess to inspire the workers, make seven bombers with the power that they made to produce the aluminum in one day. Cherokee Dam is also in eastern Tennessee. It's basically a twin of Douglas Dam, and that was done on purpose so they could build this one in 16 months, which is also pretty amazing. And it's still standing, and Douglas is still standing too, so that's a pretty cool. Fontana is over in western North Carolina. Alcoa owned a lot of property over there, and they traded the property to TVA for, that says various considerations. That, I guess that means they got their power pretty cheap or had priority on power. That dam was completed in November of '44, 2 years ahead of schedule, and it's on the Little Tennessee River. There's a picture of Fontana construction at night. And here's a picture of the dam itself. This is the powerhouse, of course. Tallest dam east of the Rockies. It's this is another one of those things, the pictures don't do it justice. So inside the powerhouse, you see we got about 240 megawatts. That's the whole plant. And here's a picture of in this one, the picture of the bombers they made with the aluminum. All right, we had a little place over in East Tennessee. It's still there, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where they basically made the uranium for the atomic bombs. And the bottom thing there, I think, is pretty neat. It's so secret, even the chairman of TVA did not know of its existence. So you have this big town out there where they had thousands of people working, and nobody knew it was there. You can go to these websites, TVA.com or .gov. It takes you to the same place. Now let's talk about hydro governors. We have 113 hydro generators. I say we have 94 Woodward mechanical cabinet actuators. Some people say there's more. The rest are the Woodward 723s, or we have 4 of the Micronet governors and 4 Voith PLC governors. Those are at Kentucky. Average age of our governors is 54 years. We don't think that's a problem, but it is a concern because the governors are mechanical and they're 50 years old. We don't want to get rid of them. We're not going to get rid of them as long as we can find support for them, but it is a mechanical device and it's over 50 years old. This is a typical Woodward governor cabinet, twin actuators. This happens to be at Wilson. I don't like that aluminum stuff on the top of that, but that's when they automated our plants. All of our hydro plants are automated. That's what they decided to do. I think it looks tacky, but that's just my opinion, and they didn't ask me. Okay, that was some other engineer. The Raccoon Mountain is our pump storage station. Assuming everybody here is at least familiar with pump storage. 1,600 megawatts, either pumping or generating, 1,000-foot head. That's where our Micronet governors are. The hydraulics are 1,000 PSI, finished in the 70s and overhauled, including new governors, about 10 years ago. This is actually a picture of one of the postcards that they used to hand out back in the good old days of the lake. Raccoon Mountain Lake is at the top of a mountain. I'll have another picture of that in a minute. This is the inside. You can see the second unit in is being taken apart now, but this is what it looks like inside. It's deep in a hole, so everything in there is painted those bright colors. It supposedly helps the people working in there, so they're not reminded that they're working down in a hole. I don't know if that works or not. It never worked for me. Here's a picture that I wish I made of Raccoon Mountain Lake, obviously from a helicopter. Where you see the undercast there, that is where the Tennessee River flows through a little canyon there, and of course they just take the water out of the river and pump it to the top of the mountain. This is another picture of the same thing. On the left side, you can see that is all man-made. This is a picture of the governor, the HMI screen. There's another picture of the governor cabinet. Jerry, I did not bring my movie. This is a picture of the generator. There's another one, the exciters on the yellow thing on the lower left of the screen. You can see the pressure tank behind the governor and the bus work in the very back. The generator voltage on these is 24 kV. This always impresses me. That's the turbine. That's 500,000 horsepower. That just always impresses me when I go out there. Now here's the Coy number 2 powerhouse. I guess if anything, this would be the opposite of Raccoon Mountain. It's on the Ocoee River, which you see in the foreground here. It's built in 1912, so, and actually the plant downstream was built in 1911, so they just had their 100th birthday. Since that's 100 and TVA is 80, TVA did not build this. It was built by the Tennessee Electric Power Company. You can see there, 1,000 horsepower turbine built in 1912. Speaking of the Tennessee Electric Power Company, the man you see standing second from the left is my grandfather, and he was the foreman of a line crew, worked with Tennessee Electric Power Company, and they went around installing. This picture, I'm guessing, was sometime in the 1930s, and there was most people did not have electricity back then, so he went around installing. And you can see from this picture here that he was also tall and devilishly handsome. Here's another picture of my grandfather. You can see the Tennessee Electric logo on the side of his truck. And that's him standing and the crew in the back of the truck. All right, so Tennessee Electric Power Company was a privately held company, and it took a while for, I guess it took a while for the government to finally convince them to sell out to the TVA. So it took us till 1939 to get it. This is also a pretty good picture. You can see the powerhouse. This is an old picture because you can still see the bus work. Oops. What have I done? There it is. You can still see the bushings on top of the powerhouse. But anyway, there's on the left, right of the screen, there's the tin stock. And at the top is the flume, which delivers the water, which we will discuss in a minute. This is the inside of the powerhouse. You can see these are horizontal generators. uh, I say about 10 megawatts each. Because the water comes down a flume, there's a limited supply of water. So if you just run one unit, you can get about 11 megawatts out of it. If you run both units, you only get about 9 megawatts each. Well, 9 megawatts is not much. Or let's say the whole station is 20 megawatts, that's not much. But if it's a hot afternoon in July and power is very expensive, 20 megawatts is a lot. It's another picture of the penstock, 250 feet ahead. All right, this is a picture of the diversion dam. What happens, let's see, that's a better, this is the upstream side. The diversion dam, there's no storage in this lake. You're basically looking at the dry lake bed there. It just diverts the river water into the flume, which you can see in the middle of the screen there. And the flume is just an open box and carries the water downstream. It hangs on the side of that mountain. Remember, this was built in 1912, so that's the way they did it back then. That flume just hugs the side of the mountain. And there's another picture of, obviously now the lake is full and it's spilling, and you can see on the far side the start of the flume. It's a picture of the top of the flume. Okay, it's this is pretty neat, 5 miles long, but it only drops 19 feet. So that's almost nothing. The powerhouse and the flume are in the National Register of Historic Places. Since this flume is built on the side of a mountain, the mountain gives way sometimes, and the flume has to be repaired, but we keep repairing it. Even though it's expensive and dangerous because it's historical. And here, the next few, I just have some pictures of the flume. That's the Ocoee River. There's the river again. When we're not using the river to make power, this is what other people like to do with the river water. We don't have enough to do both. So we can either generate or raft. And they have schedules. Obviously, we're not going to raft in January, although I think some of them would if the water was available. All right, back to just some more pictures of the flume. This is their little vehicle, buggy, cart that they drive across the top of the flume for inspections, repairs, etc. You can see it's operated by propane. There is power, but I don't see it in that picture, I don't think. There is a power line that runs from the powerhouse the length of the flume, but what if you don't have power? Then you still might have a need to get up there. It's just another picture of the little cart. How much time have I got?
30.
15. Okay. I don't really want to go in detail through each of these next slides, but I want to say in general, in the last few years, a lot of our skilled craftsmen have retired. People with 25 or 30 or 35 years of experience, they have retired. And in a lot of cases, they took their skills with them for whatever reason. So we don't have the talent anymore. And I'm speaking specifically about governors, but it applies to everything in the plant. All those guys a lot of them are gone. So nobody, if you call up, nobody knows how to, let's say, do a monthly PM on a governor. And well, walk by it. If the unit's running, then obviously the governor's okay, I guess. So what TVA has done, they've come up with what they call a standardized maintenance procedure, and with that, everybody, it's a written procedure. Everybody knows how to do a monthly by looking it up on the computer. You pull it up, you go out and it tells you to put a drop of oil here, wipe this up, inspect the dash pot, it should be at this level. So basically they've written down what everybody used to know without being written down. And the other thing is, at the bottom there, it says everybody did maintenance as they thought best. And it depends on what they were taught. And sometimes it was enough, sometimes it was not enough. Because everybody did it different and there was no communication from plant to plant. There may be 200 miles between a plant. So everybody did it different. Okay, that's what I just said. We're all do the same. The only problem I have with that is not all governors are alike. This is some more of my help when I go to the plants. I tell the guys in the plants this statistic here, and this is from the, you can see at the bottom, I got that from the Bureau, one of their books. 70% of equipment failures are caused by not performing maintenance or performing it improperly. So that's how I help the guys in the plants. And that's
Engineer
why.
wrote that. Engineer wrote that.
An engineer wrote that, that's right. But I think there's a lot of truth to that. My view is if you have a governor, let's say a Woodward mechanical cabinet actuator, and it's 70 years old, if there was some sort of design problem with that, we would know it by now. And if you go somewhere and the dash pot has no oil in it, that falls in this category. I'm not trying to make enemies here, I'm really not. Okay, so our maintenance practices, it has the merit of ensuring everyone is actually doing the PM because they give the guys a work order and he has it in his hand and the procedure, and he goes out and does it. And that way it gets done the way it should. And most of the guys in the plants that I work with, they want stuff like this. They want somebody to tell them how to maintain their governors. Because it's theirs. It's their plant, it's where they live and work, and they don't really want to call somebody to help them unless they need it. Let's get that. Discussed this earlier, our opinion, TVA, we like our mechanical cabinet actuators, and in fact are long-term cheaper and easier to maintain than some digital upgrades. I know there are people, maybe some in this room that can show me papers that prove just the opposite. I've seen it, but I'm not a believer yet. they're not paying me to say this, but there's not many parts that I need for my actuator that I cannot get from American Governor Company. Some of the older electrical parts are basically impossible to get, and we have to work around that. Yeah, this is my favorite part. We had a maintenance practice in TVA, and it was not come up with by an engineer. It's called run to failure. Let me back that up a little bit. I made a mistake here. This is not a maintenance practice. This is a management practice. Okay? The theory was, if you have a Governor oil pump, some of you guys at least recognize this as a Governor oil pump, a rotor. If you have a Governor oil pump and it has a set of bearings in it, the only way to get the maximum possible life out of those bearings is run them until they fall apart. And this is an example, I don't honestly know where I got this picture, but if it costs you $1,000 in parts and labor to replace bearings, or you have a failure, this is off one of the old XX oil pumps, which nobody's making any more of, and it costs you $100,000 to replace those Governor oil pumps, you hadn't really saved anything. You could replace those bearings, I believe it's 100 times for what it's going to cost you to replace that. I could carry on and on about run to failure. It's just some pictures. You can see we're missing some balls here. And the little shield there is gone too, that holds the balls in the bearing. This is another Governor oil pump. This is straight from the Woodward manual. It's a well-recognized fact. Preventive maintenance at regular intervals will greatly lengthen the life of the pump. Everybody in here, I'm sure, knows that. Preventive maintenance. Here's some more pictures of what happens when you run something to failure. I confess this is from a TVA facility. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but the two holes on the outer side of the big circle there are used to be round. And you can see the drive pins on the left there, those things used to be round as well. And there used to be little nylon bushings in there too, so that it's been so long since that's been looked at. The bushings were, when we took this apart, the bushings were completely gone, and this is the rest of what we saw. So obviously our standardized maintenance procedures need some work, because that hasn't been looked, I don't have an estimate, but many years. I believe I can say that. Here's another problem we had with, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with this, but some of you are. You can see the bolts there, the heads were completely broken off from the screw part of the shaft or shank or whatever you want to call it. This particular case, we never did find the rest of those. There was one that was still screwed in, but the rest of it we never found. And it's just a result of not taking a few days to open it up and look at it and change the bearings. We have a few of these. I like these because it keeps our Governor oil clean. We did have some projects to put these in all of our hydro units, but the project got canceled, and I got to asking why in the world that got canceled. Well, you can't show, the answer was, you can't show me how this helps us produce more megawatts. And my answer to that is, well, neither does mopping the bathroom, but we do that too. So, if anybody here can help me justify to the boss there why we need to finish this project, any advice you could give me, please let me know. I do have a war story about these. I was at a certain hydro plant, and they had just installed, this plant had 11 hydro units. They had just installed these filters. And it took a lot of work, and a lot of time, and a lot of money. And I walked down through the powerhouse, and I couldn't hear a single one of those running. So I walked back behind the governor where these are, and sure enough, they were not running. So I went back to the foreman, and this is a true story, and I said, are y'all not running your filters? And he said, no, and I said, well, because some plants, they run these for an hour once a week, because once you get your oil initially clean, you don't need to run these all the time. I said, are you running your new filters to keep your governor oil clean? He said, no. I said, well, why not? He said, Paul, all them things do, it just clogs up them filters, and I got to send somebody out there to check them. And that is a true story. And to this day, they're not running.
Half of those filters prevent the bearing failures.
Exactly. Here's another picture of, I don't know if you call this run to failure or just bad maintenance procedures. How much time do I have left now? Okay, I have to hurry. This is very bad. You get dirt and dust and carbon dust off your exciter all in the works here, and there's mechanical parts on that move. That one ball there is the overspeed, which is very important, and it needs to work and not be clogged up. Well, but the covers are so heavy, and some of them are. I agree. So this is a fix for that. Put handles on it. That makes it a lot easier to handle. This was a neat idea one of our plant guys came up with. He put a little sight glass on the side of his dash pot. It makes it very easy to check the oil in those. All right, I want to talk briefly about, this is inside the Coy number 2 powerhouse. All right, remember these units are vertical units. And this is what the outside of that powerhouse looked like in April of 1949. Turns out, we had somebody come in and was going to do some relay checking. And they didn't have clearance procedures back then, so he just, basically the unit was running, and he took the plastic cover off the relay, and when he put the cover back on, he tripped the relay, and since the governor, or the unit was tied on line, nobody noticed that the speed was not being regulated. Okay, and then this was really bad. When he thought the governor oil level was too low, closed the valves to the servo motor. So the wicket gates were left, and that's pretty much wide open. So the governor, or not the governor was doing what it was told to do. The unit ran away, and so the operator, he couldn't get down to turn the oil back on to close the wicket gates, so he was trying to close the head gates. And the unit just disintegrated. Basically the thing just flew apart. If you can imagine a stator, scattered in a falling leaf manner throughout the countryside. This is a picture of the powerhouse again. So the generators, the axis of rotation is basically straight down the river there, and the units are rotating around this way, and this hillside across the road from the powerhouse, I have been told that they found parts of the unit up there. Some say it's still up there. I have not been up there to see if that is. But anyway, this is the number 2 powerhouse today. We completely rebuilt it. All right, in conclusion, I have another war story. I was at a certain powerhouse, and we were working, and that evening, the turbine crew was there, and we all went out to dinner. And we were talking about how it was hard to be on the road and hard to be away from your home and your family, you know, for weeks at a time. And one of the guys there said, well, you know, guys, in a lot of ways, we're spending time with family right now. And so it is with me and being here with you guys at American Government Company. So thank you for inviting me.